Hello, welcome to this week's video with my glasses on today because I'm going to be referring to some of John's book, John Mace's book, Causism, as we go through this conversation today because it's a really important one, a really important one, and one which I completely understand from the perspective of you as an individual. And also, I now understand it from the perspective of a practitioner. So, this is the very important topic of whether you can use the Mace Energy Method process on yourself. And there is a very clear answer, which is no. Please do not try and do the Mace Energy Method process on yourself. And I'm going to tell you more about why. So, when we're using the Mace Energy process, it's all about attention. Your most powerful asset, in fact, is attention. Because the more of your attention you place on something, the more of that you get. That's why people grow successful businesses. When they put their attention on growing a successful business, they get more of that. But it's also why when we put more resistant attention on something, we get more of what we don't want. So if there is, I don't know, a kind of person who's always bugging you, oh my God, why are these people always around in my life? Why do I always end up with these kinds of people? It's because there is a resistance in you. So that attention is being filtered through that resistance, if you like. And therefore, you're still getting more of the thing. You're just getting more of what you don't want. What you resist persists. So your attention is hugely valuable. In fact, I've just recently read the book Stolen Focus by Johann Hari, I think his name was. Very much talking about how our attention has become fragmented over the years. And in fact, he kind of goes back into history and shows how it started to become, how we've become distracted, how we find it much harder to focus, how we find it so much harder now to bring our full attention to something. Why do you think so many of the world are meditating and trying mindfulness to try and get that attention back? But the fact is that attention is who you are. And the more you discreate the negativity that's in the way of that, the resistances that are in the way of that, the more you get your full, powerful attention back online. So attention is everything in this process because it's your attention on what the practitioner or helper is pointing you towards, their instructions, their guidance, their questions to you are getting you to put your attention on what's needed for that part of the process so that the process goes more smoothly, so that you fully, first of all, create the image to represent the negative identity, but also to help you discreate that image. It's all about your clarity of attention and your focus of attention on your inner experience, while the practitioner has their attention on the outside to help guide you in that process. And even if you were to think, oh, well, I've done it lots of times now, I've worked with a practitioner lots of times or with lots of practitioners, I get the process, I understand the process, I've heard John on his interview talking it through, I've read about it in the book Energy Over Mind, I get the process, I can do that for myself. You just can't. You can't do it effectively, you can't do it fully. And therefore, when you end up with residual negative identities there, you're no better off than when you started. In addition, even if you think it always goes really smoothly, we can never know what the next identity discretion is going to be like. I've just worked with somebody today who you would say, well, they always breeze through their discretion process. But actually, on this occasion, they bumped into something that they hadn't bumped into before. And they got a bit entangled with it for a moment and they got a bit, they took their attention off the image because the identity caught their attention more. And they needed me there to help them return to the purpose of the process. Because once you're in it, you're in it. The role of the person outside of you is to help you see that and come back to clarity of the fact that you're just sitting there watching a mental image. So I'm going to draw from John's book, Causism, because he quoted this lady, Leslie D. Weatherhead, and her book, Psychology and Life. In it, she said, "The difficulty of observing your own mental processes is that you cannot see yourself by yourself. For when you look at yourself, you use a bit of yourself to see yourself. So therefore, it is not the whole of yourself you see, is it?" Do you see that how the minute your attention splits, doesn't really split, but it feels like that. The minute it splits from trying to both see yourself, see what you're seeing, and see yourself at the same time, it's as though you split yourself, you split your attention into those two places and trying to hold those two perspectives at the same time. It is not possible to hold two perspectives at the same time. There is inevitably a switching back and forth at the very least, but which in itself is a reduction of that focused attention. The other metaphor that John uses in the book, and which I've actually mentioned recently with a few clients who've said, "Oh, but I've started doing this for myself now." No, please do not do it for yourself. So this is the analogy. If you imagine that when you're in the MACE process, you're inside a car and the practitioner is outside the car. So from inside, all you can see is the interior of the car. You can't see the outside that the practitioner can see. And equally, the practitioner on the outside can't see the inside. That's why we ask you questions. That's why we ask to find out what's going on in your experience. Because we can't see the inside of the car because we're outside of it. And so if you imagine that analogy in the context of a session, and that you're kind of switching yourself from inside the car to outside the car to inside the car to outside the car, your attention is just not focused. Because while in the process, you're then probably also thinking, outside the car, what's the next thing I'm meant to ask or say or do? And then back to inside the car again. Oh, what's happening now? Where's the image gone? What's going on now? Back to outside the car again. What's the next question? What am I supposed to be saying next? Inside the car again. Do you see the dilution of your attention when you're doing that? Which therefore impacts your ability to follow the process, which therefore impacts the discreation of a negative identity. So please don't. We would all love it to be true, for it to be a self-help modality. I said at the very start, like I really get it as an individual. One of the very first things I said after I'd experienced it and was then going on to train, me and my friend was saying, well, why can't we? You know, surely there must be a way to make this a self-help process. Surely there must be a way to make that possible. And then, having gone through our training and experienced it more and got more and more understanding of it, the more we've gone, no, actually, it really can't. We would still love it to be true, but no, you really can't. Unless you want to make things worse, unless you want to get more entangled in negative identities, please do not try and use the MACE method as a self-help process. It is not designed for that. And now if you're sitting there thinking, well, okay, but could I do it with a friend? Then yes. But a friend who also understands the process, you would have at least wanted them to go through their foundation sessions so they understand what's going on to some level. You know, at least to have that basic understanding and experience of it. And then if you did buy John's original book, Energy Over Mind, which is the same but slightly different version of Causism, the first version that he wrote, it does have the process in there. And I'd just like to finish with this one final thought. Because something that I really, really love about being guided in the Mace process is to be able to rest in that space of my own experience, to be fully absorbed in my own experience, looked after by the practitioner on the outside of me. And so I just love to invite that angle as well, that in fact, it's an absolute gift to have somebody alongside you who's guiding you in this process, and you get to just relax and be entirely in your own experience without having to also at the same time be the person looking out for you, asking you the questions. Like, receive, really receive. Allow yourself to receive the gift of being looked after by somebody in that way, by being guided by somebody in that way. Indeed, if receiving that looks hard for you, then maybe something there to discreate, because receiving is your natural state. So, to sum up, no, it is not a self-help modality. Please don't try and do the Mace process on yourself. If you want to buy energy over mind and do it with a friend, please at least have the friend have done their foundation sessions so they understand it more deeply than just reading some words. And of course, as practitioners, we have more training again, of course, than what's in the book. We know how to handle the nuances. We know what to do with things that get stuck or sticky or feel difficult. There is a reason we spend 6 months in training to become a practitioner. So I look forward to joining you in a Mace session soon so that I can be the one that's guiding you, supporting you, helping you to get free of whatever negative identities and resisted feelings that you are done with. It's such a gift of a process, and I love to help people with it. So please do get in touch if you want a session. Much love. Speak soon.